I'm Kenny Schrader, and this is The Skinny.
From the Fatheads Eyewear Studios in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny. Brought to you by Toyota, Rhino Classifieds, General Tire, and Dream Giveaway. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by General Tire. It's more than just a slogan. Anywhere is possible with General Tire. General Tire's Grabber X3 mud terrain tire offers aggressive styling and is engineered for durability with innovative performance features that are ready to carry you through extreme mud, dirt, and rock-covered terrain. For extreme traction that's ready for anything and rugged styling to match, look no further than the Grabber X3. Make your anywhere possible by visiting GeneralTire.com today. Once again, welcome to The Skinny. Ken Stout and Rico Elmore in the house. It is a busy week here in May, just a couple of days before the 500, but that also means the Little 500 is just a couple of days away. A lot of racing that's going to go on at Lucas Oil Raceway Park as well on Friday night. It's a busy, busy week. We love this week, and for the people that live around here, I mean, it's our favorite week, or certainly one of. We also love the U.S. Nationals as well, but it's a big week, and we're excited to have a young gun. I mean, a guy that if he sticks with it a couple more years, he'll probably be able to turn this thing into a career, but he's off to a really good start.
Accomplish. He could make some accomplishments.
If he just sticks with it here for a little bit longer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kenny Schrader, one of the most loved personalities in this sport and certainly very successful and still getting it done today. If I'm not mistaken, I think you've already won a couple of UMP modified races this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've won a couple this year. We're off to the start of a good year. We've got a bunch of top fives, only won twice, but we're off to a good year.
So Schrader's in the house, of course, a long-time NASCAR career, very, very successful in everything that he's done. Also, the team Kenny Schrader Racing builds cars for a number of successful teams. But I've got to tell you, as of late, the most impressive accomplishment that I've seen you pull off was about a year ago. Well, I guess a little bit less than a year ago because they didn't run the Little 500 till August last year, courtesy of the pandemic. But my God, I mean, for the folks out there that are not familiar with the Little 500, it's a sprint car race. They start off 3 wide. It's at Anderson, and they run 500 laps in a sprint car. Yes, they have pit stops with cars that should not have pit stops. It is total chaos. But just picture wheeling 850, 900 horsepower, 410 sprint car around Anderson for 500 laps, and this young man that we're talking to tonight finished in 8th place. I was like, oh my God, Kenny Schrader is still kicking some ass at a high level. Awesome, dude. Congratulations. That was really impressive.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to be congratulating people for an 8th place finish. You know, that's not near good enough. That's why we're back here again, is try to improve upon that. You don't come here to run 8th.
I know you don't come here to run 8th, and maybe you've noticed already, but I'm clearly steering clear of saying your age here. And I don't know if you're okay with it. Then we will.
It don't bother me.
I mean, 65 years old, dude.
Yeah,
65
years
until
old.
Saturday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Your birthday's on the 29th. That's right. So how about a birthday present on the 29th to win the Little 500, right?
I love that. Yeah, I remember the first time I ever met Schrader, and, it was like many, you become an instant fan just because of what a great guy he is. But it was probably in 1991, maybe, something in that area. And he was coming in the back gate in the tunnel at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. And that day, he ran a modified, a late model, and I believe that you ran, maybe it was a Silver Crown car was the third car, but it was some 3 or 4 car deal, and he ran every one of them. Now, he was definitely in the Cup program at the time, and but man, he came in the back gate, super nice guy, and I was running security for the for the fairgrounds at the time for that deal, and just a great guy. And then, over the years, got to know him a little bit better through, a lot of different, either through the Armstrongs when, Dakota used to drive for him and in the ARCA series, and then of course how Kenny got tangled up with the wild Armstrong bunch, as in the Brad and Tara Armstrong bunch. More crazy Tara than Brad, but how all that went down is a mystery. But yeah, it was just a really great guy, and I mean, he's not trying to. Schrader, have you ever drag raced? I mean, Smoke's trying to go the raw straight line business.
He's drag racing people off turn 4.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Now, years ago, I had a motorcycle. We got a F-bike record, whatever that was, but it was a stock 250 Honda. But no, I don't need. We got other stuff to do yet. Not ready to go drag racing. Don't want to think about that. But we just had a lot of fun over the years. We have been very fortunate to drive a lot of stuff. Just still having fun. That's the main thing.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, what drives you? I mean, at 65, near 66 years old, there's nothing that you haven't accomplished, and it's got to be that you're still having fun. I mean, what drives you to get up in the morning and say, "Hey, I'm going to go hop in a race car again"?
Well, I don't know enough about racing. I sure don't know anything about other sports, but I know these like guys that play golf and stuff, and they retire from PGA Tour or whatever it is. I don't think they quit playing golf. They still want to go play, and I like running around the country with my dirt car and still playing. The little 500 deal kind of happened through Irish Saunders with Hoosier. He called me 5 years ago and said, "Would you like to run a little 500?" And I said, "Oh, most definitely. There's no damn way in hell I want to run a little 500. And he said, "Just go test for one afternoon." So here we are, 5 years later, going to try again.
That is absolutely awesome. Yeah, I was that's interesting because I was wondering how that kind of transpired as well, and Brad and Tara Armstrong, with all joking aside, the best people ever. I mean, just biggest heart, in the world, and I would love nothing more than to see Schrader in victory lane with those guys. I mean, it would be.
Yeah, how about we just keep going forward? Our main, we're shooting for a 7th. We went from 10th, 9th to a DNF to an 8th. So 7ths on the radar.
Now, in the words of Kenny Schrader, who in the hell would ever want to go out there and race for 7th? I mean, let's at least get into the top 5.
Right. Okay. I don't know
shoot
what
for
I
top
was thinking.
5. We'll shoot for top 5 here. Yeah.
So, I mean, for the general base of fans out there, and myself included in this, when I think of Kenny Schrader these days, I mean, obviously you had your NASCAR career, a lot of time on asphalt, no doubt, but when I think of you now, I think of you as a dirt car racer. So do you do any other asphalt stuff besides the little 500?
I'm trying to think. I maybe ran 3 or 4 last year, but that was it. I prefer to run dirt, and we take our own car most every place we go. 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, our truck trailer, we drove through 38 states.
Wow.
We did a lot of racing. We were all over. So we're just trying to keep doing that.
Now, did you take your motorcycle through all 38 of those states, or was that a flying race?
No. I'm most time in the truck and on the motorcycle a lot. We still carry the motorcycle up in front of the truck. So sometimes I'll be with the boys for 3 or 4 days. We'll be racing. And then I'm going to go meet someone else and run their car. And it's pretty easy to roll that motorcycle out of the front of the trailer and just shove off that way. So we still do that a lot.
Yeah, that was one of the things when I originally got him set up in some sunglasses. He's like, I love these. These are great to ride with and so forth. And so I sent him a box. I'm going to assume that box is gone now. It was about 10 years ago, I think, is when I did that. But we'll fix you up with
10 years ago.
We'll fix you up with more by all means. So,
Okay,
what's what's your schedule coming up? So we know you got Little Five. Did I hear you're running maybe the Silver Crown race at Terre Haute? Is that what I heard?
No, no, we were going to run the modified there uh, tonight or Wednesday and Thursday, and the last 3 days, Sunday at Anderson, Monday at Kokomo, and yesterday at Speedrome, we did events with some of our federated customers where we brought 6 cars to the speedway. They got to go drive them, and then I give them a ride in a 2-seater. So we'll still do that about 50 days a year, all over the country. So that keeps us pretty busy. We're just going to run a little 500 this weekend, and then kind of pick up again next week somewhere with dirt car, and then we go up northeast because for 6 weeks in a row we're doing the Ray Everham, Tony Stewart SRX testing. We've been doing that for them, and we're going to have to be at those races, getting those cars all the same.
Did you have a hand in building those cars as well?
Oh hell no, I didn't have a hand in building them. They don't let me build nothing, but we've tested at every track they've been to.
Well, so correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know if you guys still do this, but there was a time when you guys were prepping trucks and ARCA cars. I mean, I just recently, a couple of years ago, when I covered ARCA, you guys had a team out there. So that's the reason I asked that. You guys still build race cars at the shop, right?
No, we just have a St. Louis shop now. We sold the North Carolina shop. It was just time to get out of that business. So we're just playing out of the St. Louis shop.
I'm blown away at your schedule. I mean, talking to us and telling us what you're doing. I mean, to go out with Federated is super cool. Of course, you know, everybody's going to take care of a sponsor, but to give 2-seater rides and stay as busy as you're staying, I mean, that's a legit job to show up. I mean, you're a talented driver, but to listen, I just call it what it is. What it is. I mean, the monotony of people getting in and out of the car all day long and giving people, you know, rides in a 2-seater is no easy task. By the end of the day, you're wore out. So hats off to you, man. I mean, you're still scrapping in the trenches. That's awesome.
Well, we're, you know, like I said, I still like playing. We're going to be in a race car over 100 days a year. Over 100 days this year. So we're just about making every opportunity we can to go play.
And here, Stewart turned 50. You know, last week we did his surprise birthday party in Vegas Monday night, which I got to tell you was absolutely epic because he had no idea. And Leah put him together like, I mean, never before, because it was to the point where they got on the plane and Steven, the pilot, shut down all the monitors in the back. So he had no idea where the plane was flying, had no idea what direction they were going. And he told Steven, they were over at my bus sitting there in Houston at the drag strip when it was raining every day we were there. But he told Steven, he said, I pay your paycheck. It's my plane, my fuel. You're going to tell me where? He said, not a chance. He was pissed. He was pissed. He had no idea.
At the end of the day, I'm still flying it. So unless you want to sit in here behind the seat, you know,
yeah, you don't want to try that either. He will try that. But so they're flying in, and he finally looks out the window on the approach, and he sees Lake Mead, and he says, "Oh, we're going to Lake Powell." He said, "We're going to Powell. This is awesome." You know, I thought they were going there to wake surf and this and that, and Steven said the way that they landed, he couldn't see the strip. So they had landed to the west, I think is what he was telling me. He said until he actually opened the door and got out, he didn't know that they were in Vegas. Had no idea. So then he gets there, and the whole deal was, which KJ, she's awesome with Cosmo. KJ has it all set up. Well, Dale Jarrett's there too, but the whole plan was Dale Jarrett was there to go up to this new high limits on the top floor on the penthouse, this private high limits thing, which, you know, Tony was all wound up. He was ready to rip and go and this and that. So KJ brings them up, and there's 25 of us in this room, and as soon as They said surprise. He was like, you, and the explicit started ripping. And he was red faced, which I've never, he doesn't get embarrassed about anything, but he was so taken back by the people that were able to make it. Not everybody, they trying to invite everybody that you're supposed to that, which I submitted a list. I said, here's a lot of people that I know that, it would mean something to him, and so on and so forth. But I'm telling you, it was great. And yeah, he was definitely wound up, but he just turned 50. He's way behind Schrader on this deal. I don't know if he went drag racing because he's trying to be like Chris Karamesini, the Greek, run until he's 90 or 70 something like Force. So, I mean, I'm trying to figure out where he's headed with all this. So
he's headed wherever he wants to. I'm happy for him.
That's right.
Sounds like him and Lee are having a good time.
They are, man. And I'm telling you, him running that fuel car, there's a lot of folks that stand up there on the line to watch him and, could critique him in many ways that are probably not that favorable if it were there. But, when you have the likes of Chad Head, who's been there a long time, Nicky Bonafonte and several others say, if you didn't know who was in that car, you'd think that was somebody that did this every weekend. And so to hear that, from your peers, pretty impressive. And, my favorite thing that he said originally was, man, this thing has a lot of switches in it. We just used to have a couple of things we turned on and, turn the power on and hit the ignition, the fan, and a couple other deals. And he goes, this has got a lot more switches in it. You got to really know what you're doing here.
My favorite part was he was at the school testing, and the first thing he does is rip off a perfect reaction time, .000, and he immediately takes a picture and takes that off. He's like, I don't know what the big deal is here with you guys on this reaction time thing.
Yeah, he sent it to me, who I happen to be with Brandon Bernstein and J.R. Todd, two very accomplished drivers. And he said, why don't you ask them why they try to make this look so tough? Is his exact words. And with that, all hell broke loose. And then he was on the phone when we were calling him. So, but no, he's tough. He's tough in everything. And I mean, that's the cool part. And I mean, Schrader was kind of the original in running everything, right? I mean, he could run any of that stuff. And Tony followed shortly thereafter and in a lot of the same manner. And so it's just really cool to watch it all go on, and I'm excited to see the SRX stuff. Sorry, go ahead, Kenny.
No, I just saying, I've known Tony pretty good for a while, and I know how I think, and I know a lot of other drivers that have been fortunate enough to make a decent living doing this, and 2 pedals, 1 steering wheel, no IQ test. I'm telling you, it's not that hard a job.
It's a damn shame he isn't here.
Yeah. We need to make a highlight reel because Davey Hamilton was in here telling about how he cheated to win the championship and beat him.
He said, I finished second to Tony Stewart one year. He said, when the year he won the championship, he said, so I don't know if that counts or not as a championship.
He said clearly he was cheating.
Yeah.
So, Schrader, you, how did you get started in this whole mess of racing in the beginning?
My daddy ran a general automotive repair shop next to a little racetrack in outside of St. Louis. He raced forever, just at tracks right around the St. Louis area there. And when I turned 16, I got to drive the car. And I ran that was in 71. And in 1979, we were running a lot of different cars. And I just really got thinking that, if I just really worked at this and did this a little better, I could maybe keep from getting a job. So that's all I've been doing since 79 is trying to keep from getting a job.
Sportsman champion at Lake Hill Speedway in Valley Park.
That's a hobby car. That's a hobby car.
I mean, that was a bit a while ago. I mean, 71, 72, 73, somewhere in there.
Set 1971, This is our 51st year of racing.
Wow.
I think I made it about 51 months, if that. so I was a little short on that, but yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, I knew that your dirt operation for the most part was always out of Missouri, right?
Yes, sir. We moved down to Charlotte for a little while, maybe half a dozen years. Now we moved it back to Missouri because we knew we were going to wind back up in Missouri. Even when we moved to Charlotte, because of the cup job, we knew we wanted to go back to Missouri someday. So we just recently did. Now we're trying to get everything built there and add on the shop and build a place to live and stuff. But we're happy with it. We're glad to be back, and that's that whole Midwest thing. We loved it down there in Charlotte, but I love Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, those Iowa, those tracks around there. I'm glad to be home.
Spending some time here with legendary Kenny Schrader here on The Skinny. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the other side. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Dream Giveaway. Dream Giveaway has been giving away high-end American muscle cars to raise money for charity since 2007. Dream Giveaway is known for giving away classic and new muscle and paying the federal taxes so the winners don't have to. For $25, you can jump in the game, and part of that goes to charity. You'll have a chance at winning some of the coolest cars on the planet. Check it out at dreamgiveaway.com. Welcome back to The Skinny, ladies and gentlemen. Kenny Schrader on with us, sitting in his motorhome, just, about 40 minutes away or so, outside of Anderson, hoping to practice on a Wednesday before the Little 500. Unfortunately, Mother Nature has changed plans up a little bit for him with some rain.
I'm beginning to think it's me. I was in Houston all week, and it rained nonstop. And then I get back home, and it's raining here. It didn't rain in Vegas, I don't think. But anyhow, Anderson Speedway, one of my favorite memories of that, and I told Doug Coletta this weekend. We were, of course, had plenty of time to stand around and talk, but I was standing there talking to him. I said, the funny thing about it is when we would show up in Anderson back in the day, well, Doug was running sprint cars and midgets, of course, with us, and nobody had semis then. Nobody had the big rigs, the stackers, and all that stuff, except Coletta. And you would pull in, and there was a black rig sitting there with Coletta in gold leaf on the back top corners of that thing. You're like, oh, Doug's here. So, did you run with him, Schrader? Was he in when you were transitioning through?
No.
Yeah, I thought that was after.
Yeah, my open wheel years really were very, very short. We won the USAC Silver Crown Championship in '82 and the sprint car in '83. I never ran a USAC race till probably '79, maybe, and then we were done '84 basically. So we weren't there a whole lot. Now, obviously, we still go back and visit and run something every now and then. But until the first Little 500 I had never run a sprint car on pavement. We'd run the midgets and the Silver Crowns, but when we won the USAC Sprint Car Championship, it was exclusively on dirt then.
Was Richmond then? Was he there then? Was Tim Richmond in then?
Hey, I'm old, okay? But I'm not as old as you guys want to think I am.
I just thought Richmond was a late bloomer.
I didn't say that.
No. No. And they didn't run asphalt then when we won it. They had asphalt tracks. They just didn't run them. I mean, asphalt was invented and stuff.
I'm telling you, anybody that could be in for 5 years and win championships, that's pretty solid, because the caliber of talent that comes through USAC that has and is and still does is absolutely amazing. And I mean, watching modern day guys that are in it, like, Tyler Courtney, he is on a tear. Of course, Brady Bacon, who has been with us for a number of years, 12, 13, 14 years, something like that. But that's a lot of talent to lasso within 5 years and move on. But
Those guys running those USAC sprint cars now, I get to watch them a couple times a year at Terre Haute and stuff. It's breathtaking. I mean, they are standing on the gas.
Winning that championship, in 82 and 83, Silver Crown and sprint car, you climb back into a Silver Crown car now, are they still feel about the same? I mean, honestly, looking at them, they just don't look a whole lot different. But
except the down tubes.
Yeah, I'm just curious from a the technology standpoint I'm talking about. I mean, when you get inside of one, is it how much different is it?
No, it's the same. I mean, they haven't changed them. They're the same. They had too much horsepower then. They really got too much now, to be able to put on the track. But I drove. I'm going to do it again here in a couple of weeks. But I went to Seekonk, Massachusetts 2 years ago and drove one of Bobby Seymour's midgets, and we run third or fourth. And he says, you shouldn't be able to do that after, it's been forever since you've done it. And I said, Bobby, they haven't changed a damn thing. It's the same cars. It's the same track. Everything's the same. I said, why, I didn't forget.
He's trying to think that you're old. I wouldn't take that shit.
I mean, it's exactly the way I feel when I look at him. I feel like nothing has really changed, but it still requires a ton of talent to get one around at speed. I mean, so whenever he says you shouldn't be able to do that, I mean, knowing how good these kids are, as you just commented, and the finesse that they have with the throttle, I mean, can you get the car set up for sure, but the finesse that it takes to really get one around at speed to run on the front is exceptional.
But I think the other side of it is you've got all of the, now you've got the suspension stuff, how big, how much stuff that they've done with the suspension versus what it was then, where, the adjustable, where you got the rebound, the compression, and then, the torsion,
So that's a great question there, Kenny. I mean, what about the dampers? Are the dampers any different than what they were before?
Oh, yeah, they're obviously different. Some of the play, I mean, we'll go play with them on the pavement still. When you watch them smoke into turn one at Terre Haute, never check up. I don't really want to do that. I want to watch them, but I don't want to play that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a little different on the pavement. But yeah, the cars are obviously progressed some, but compared to dirt late models or modifieds or anything like that, they haven't made the leaps that some of the other classes have. But these guys get so much power and they have so much traction when they're wheeling down the straightaway and stuff. I mean, those guys just got a lot of desire, and they're putting it all on the line when they run.
Yeah, whenever you've been to the Chili Bowl, and I've heard some of the guys that race, let's say like in the 90s or so, watch those guys now, and they're like, we could just never put power down like they're putting power down now.
We won qualifying night 2 years in a row at Chili Bowl. Always had trouble on Saturday night. I think best we ever ran was 7th. But we won qualifying night. I don't know what year it was. 90. I don't know, 1 or 2, something like that. Driving for Wilkie's. Actually driving for Ralph. The kids had their car, and Ralph had a car that he brought, and I get to drive for Ralph. That was a lot of fun.
Super cool. I mean, of course, legendary name. And speaking of the Wilkies and Wilkie Pack, you actually tried to qualify for the 500. With the Indianapolis 500 coming up here in a couple of days, you actually did make a run at that.
Best wreck I ever had.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I don't know if those two words go together, best and wreck, but okay.
No, Rico, you'll understand this. We were up there, run 192. think he only had to run 186 or something. Chet Phillip got in, I think, at 186. And, it's 1900 something. But we were running good. Think we cut a tire. It doesn't make any difference what happened. Next thing we're destroyed. And we had another car, but it wasn't entered because of the $1,000 or $1,500 entry fee. So I had some owners come by, and they said, "What do you got?" And I said, "What do you mean? What do I got?" I said, "I got this brand new helmet that Bell gave me, and I didn't crack it, and my legs didn't get broke. A lot of guys were getting their legs broke then with the or the lower control arms coming through. So I'm ready to go." And they said, "Well, I mean, what do you got for money?" And I said, "If I had any money, you think I'd be doing this stuff?" Uh, and right then, and we went on a tear that last week and a half of the month. We won at the fairgrounds. We won 3 or 4 in a row because that was in the sprint car, and that because it didn't seem like you were going that fast after running at Speedway. But it was the best wreck because right then I made up my mind that I was going to go down south because I thought there was better opportunities long term down south and quit worrying about the open wheel cars.
Yeah, they were flying, man. They were getting around there, but it was sketchy to wreck one.
Well,
it's always sketchy to wreck one, but it was really sketchy to wreck one of those things back then.
But the interesting thing, that's a great analogy what Schrader just said there. But I'm telling you, you're talking. When Robin Miller was in, and he was sitting there talking about how, you have the old cars where you have the fuel tanks right next to you in the car that had no bladder. I mean, there was no safety, nothing. And then, you talk like what Schrader's talking about. I mean, I think Rick Mears, both of his feet probably have more metal in them than bone at this point because of exactly what Schrader was talking about. So, yeah, it's the longevity of it is definitely, any of it now. After watching the Cup race at COTA this weekend, I'm not really sure what the longevity is for any of those guys, but the Rainstorm 250 that they were running in, but it is just, it's just it's a wild place, the Speedway, and we've had a lot of the guys on here, current and past. It's like Davey Hamilton said, I wasn't going to end my career on the fence or in the wall at Texas or something. I can't remember exactly how he said it, but it's exactly what Schrader said. It's like, okay, what's the longevity? I've got fenders around me. I got a cage around me. I've got some protection, and So with that being said, there had to be some pretty wild rides in Cup. What do you remember that you don't want to remember?
I think I've only been upside down 4 times in a Cup car. I've probably been upside down 4 dozen between everything. It ain't no big deal. Getting upside down in the Cup car, that's not bad. Running 200 mile an hour at Talladega and then finishing your wreck a quarter mile down the road, that's not bad. Running 120 and stopping in 30 feet, that hurts.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. Gordon dumped me one time at Talladega, which was and he didn't dump me, he just barely bumped me. But I remember in the middle of it, and I thought, like, wow, that wasn't near as bad as I thought it was going to be because it only turned over 3 or 4 times. And then I look around and reassessed, and we were just real high. And when it came back down, it got worse. But you hit your belts and you got out. So the Cup car was great. And I love watching those Indy cars now with all the front protection they got with the windshields and that
For sure.
whatever they call it deal above their heads. just
aero
makes
screen
me
there,
happy
yeah.
to see that. Yeah, the cars still look great, and just someone finally realized that, hey, we ought to protect this guy a little bit.
Yeah, and it's paid huge dividends on a number of times already. I mean, just recently, I want to say at Barber this year, I think they had that opening wreck where Newgarden unfortunately dipped a wheel off, came back in front of the field on the opening lap, and parts and pieces were flying. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe one bounced off the front of Jimmy Johnson's car off the aero screen. That most certainly
right.
would have hit him right in the head, and we know the results of that are not good. So it's paid huge dividends. And I remember it was only a couple of years ago, there was a race at Detroit with IndyCar, and they had a wreck, and one car ended up on top of another car, and the tire literally had the guy's head, I want to say, pinned against the side of his headrest. He maybe had a couple of inches or something like that, but there's a tire mark on the helmet. He was fine. But I just remember thinking, oh, my God, I mean, that just could have been disastrous. So, yeah, to see those advancements in safety, and that has to be the biggest advancements that you've seen in the sport along the way in the history of your careers, how much safer they are now than they were when you guys first climbed into them.
Oh, yeah. But even when I started, like I first ran my first open wheel car probably in 74 or 5, you know, since then, they're so much better. But, from when I started racing to the pioneer, I mean, not the pioneers, but the guys in the 60s, man, when what was the real rough year? 64 and 66, weren't they? For
I think so.
USAC
Yeah.
open wheel guys. But I mean, yeah, and we're not done yet. They're going to keep coming up with new stuff. Like Mikey Waltrip said one day, he told me, he said, "Do you realize we're going to be able to tell our grandkids that we used to run 200 mile an hour next to a concrete wall? No safer barriers." And you think about it now, that I can't. Those are what the dumbasses we were. We didn't know it was okay. We didn't know the
No
safer
Hans
barrier
device.
alone. Yeah. Well, the safer barrier alone takes about a third of the impact out. So it's just amazing what they keep coming up with, and they'll keep coming up with more.
And the safer barrier was birthed, if you will, by Tony George. Tony George was the one that started in on that to begin with when it all started happening. And I had a friend that was actually had high-speed cameras, back then. I mean, Safer Barry's been around for a minute now. But, he had high-speed photography equipment, and it was set up in every corner, like impact zones, like where they would catch it. And I'm telling you, man, it was wild. Showed me, some of the frame by frame. And I mean, this thing's blasting, 1,000 frame. I mean, just ripping. And so anyhow, they showed what it was without, and then they showed what it was with the next year after they had kind of got it all put in place. And it's wild for sure.
And, of course, that technology is getting better and better by the day. I mean, we just saw Will Power on bump day trying to qualify to get inside of the field. He smokes the right rear into the wall off of turn 2 and continues on to finish the lap. I mean, what I was looking at there is, and he tagged it pretty good. It was definitely no joke. I mean, the fact that he had balls enough to run that thing into turn 3, that literally had to be a conversation he had with himself down the back straightaway saying, well, there's a really good chance I'm going to wreck big right here, but if I don't go for it, I'm not getting in the show. And it was all or nothing. So hats off to him for that, I guess. But whenever you look at what the safer barrier did, the spring back, it didn't just launch it. It didn't suck the car in and then launch it back out into the track. It really just kind of saved the back of the car, and he was able to continue down the back straightaway on the mat. It was what they're doing with it now is nothing short of exceptional. And Kenny, whenever you talk about what Mikey said, now we'll be able to tell our grandkids we race against the wall. Well, think about the wall was an advancement from the Armco, right?
Right.
I mean, Armco used to suck the cars in and cut them in half.
Yeah, but one thing, now I'm not saying this in Will Power's case by any means, But throughout racing forever, when you say he had the balls to go down the back straightaway and talk to himself, there's always been a fine line in our sport between big balls and little brains. They look like the same sometimes.
I've never heard it put that way.
Sometimes
but
it pays off, I
Yeah.
mean, you just never know, and it might pay off.
Never
You
heard
can't
it
always
that way.
tell
But
which one it is.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. Everybody can finish up with their chuckle, and we'll be right back on the other side. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Rhino Classifieds. Tired of all those ads and random stuff that shows up when you're looking to buy or sell your car parts? Rhino Classifieds was created just for you. Welcome to a streamlined buying and selling app created by racers for racers and race fans. Modified cars, classic cars, race cars, that special big block you need, the trailer to move your baby around the country in. We got you at rhino.co. Welcome back to The Skinny. Having some chuckles here with Kenny Schrader. And let me say thank you, man, for finding the time to come on here and spend some time with us here at The Skinny. We certainly appreciate it, man. Your career has just been outstanding, but your personality far exceeds your career. And you mentioned before that what you're still doing is having fun, and it certainly shows. I mean, there's always a smile on your face. You're happy when you're at the racetrack, and you're living the dream, man.
Yeah, I am. I've got no complaints. Still having fun. Don't have any plans of quitting anytime real soon. My wife tells me that my driving skills aren't that good, but they're the best skills I've got. So I've got to milk it a little bit longer.
Hey, man, you wouldn't be able to do this without sponsors. Talk to me. How long have you been with Federated?
Wait a minute. I know how to do this. Okay, look at that. That's 22 years.
Wow.
Federated Auto Part. 22 years. Hunt Brother Pizza is in our car for the last half a dozen. HenryCars.com. And this all are my dirt cars. This weekend is really big though, because the little 500. So I think we're the Fatheads car, aren't we?
I think that sounds right. That's good. He did great.
Yeah.
How about that?
He finished the right
way. Are you gonna sell me a pair at wholesale price?
We'll get you in a pair just as long as you keep mentioning us. That's how that works.
Yeah. Okay, Rico.
We got hats, we got koozies, we got all kinds of nice things here now.
We've had a lot of fun, and no plans to quit just yet. I said when I can't get in, when I'll get my buddies, I'll get younger buddies to help me get in when I can't get in no more. There's no problem.
That kind of segues right into what I was going to say. 500 laps is a lot of laps at Anderson Speedway. I mean, 30 or 40 laps at Anderson Speedway is a lot. It's a bull ring. It's a high bank place. It isn't making split-second decisions. It's making split-millisecond decisions because something's happening real quick at the speeds you guys are running there. I mean, I know Stewart's workout regimen. Are you on the same thing? Is that how you're doing this?
Pretty much on the same workout regimen as Stewart. Yes, very much so.
I'd love to say something different, but unfortunately, pretty much the same one.
Yeah, pretty much the same program here. So this is good. Yeah.
Do you have any? To tell somebody to hop in a car that let's just say you could hop into a sprint car and you had the skills to drive it. You wouldn't physically. I would say most people, I mean, even people that are in shape, that jog or work out on a regular basis, they would not survive at speed the physicality of the car I would venture to say much past 10 laps, and that's if you're in pretty good shape. Much less somebody that's about to be 66 years old to go out there and rip 500. Do you think it's just your ability to relax when you have a little opportunity to relax, not hang on too tight? The muscles that have been developed over the course of time you continue to use are just there. I mean, how do you explain it?
Well, you just get conditioned to do it. You ran the cup races for right at 30 years, and they were meltdowns. I mean, be 140, 145 degrees in the car. You'd be in there for 4 hours. That helped. I've never been out of the car for an extended period of time. I had a little run last week where I was 8 days in a row in a car, and we're going to be right at 8. That was a couple weeks ago. Right at 8 this week too. The main thing is just probably feeling relaxed enough and comfortable enough to remember to breathe, because that's where you really get yourself in trouble. And I say that because I went through it, at different stages of my career. When you'd get up into a different type car that you maybe weren't used to, and you'd be a little stressed up, and it just comes as second nature, like anything does, after you do it enough. I do a lot of stuff to keep from having to get up on Mondays and go to work.
There's the key.
So right when you feel like you're fatigued and you're not going to make it, I'm going to have to go to work Monday if I don't make it. So I got to keep.
So that motivates you to finish. Keep running those laps.
Exactly.
I do not want a real job.
One more thing, too, is our little 500 has been 10th, 9th, a broke, a DNF, and an 8th. 10th, 9th, DNF, and 8th. So I've never run 500 laps yet, so I don't know. I'm pretty strong around the 488, but we haven't made the 500 yet.
I love it.
Keep scrapping, right? I've got a story about the breathe thing too.
Right,
so go ahead.
Right. So Stuart, he would get out of the car. We'd go to these hammer down tracks like in PA. And listen, it's the same thing that Schrader said about watching the young guns, if you will, hauling it down into one and just about not really lifting at all. Okay. And just wheeling that thing around there, pulling the front ends up. Now, man, Williams Grove, Port Royal, those places are no joke. Well, Tony comes in, he runs good there. If the car's right and things are right, he's on it, man. He's doing things well. He comes in and he's absolutely gassed. I'm like, you all right? He's like, yeah. He goes, this place just makes you hold your breath. It's just interesting to hear Schrader say that. And I told him when this whole drag racing thing started, I go, can you hold your breath 4 seconds? Or how long can you do it? Because you'll probably be pretty good at this if you can do that. So what was your deal?
I find it also interesting that a veteran like Kenny Schrader says you have to remember to breathe, because I had the opportunity to run a short course off-road truck. And going back, I believe it was around 2004 or 5, and we were testing at Crandon. And nobody had ever said anything to me about it. And I remember we practiced for an event, Bark River, I think it was, and I ran about 3 laps. And I got out of the truck, and I literally said to my spotter, I said, I'm never going to make it through this race. I said, I'm completely wore out after 3 laps. I was spent. I was done. And I think it was Johnny Greaves, who, multi-time champion, walked up to me and he said, man, you got to breathe. He said, you got to. No, it was Kurt Leduc. It was Kurt Leduc, and I had a sock. I had an off-road sock. The socks come down to protect your neck and stuff. And it was containing all of my exhale air, so all the carbon monoxide was staying in the helmet. They said rip that thing off so you can get some fresh air, and you got to remember to breathe. And oh my God, what a difference, because I was doing exactly what Kenny just said. I was scared to death. I had never raced it before. I was hanging on for dear life, and you naturally hold your breath whenever you do that. So I just wasn't getting any oxygen in at all, and consequently, after 3 laps, I was wore out. So I literally used to have my spotter tell me, every single race, I would say, remind me to breathe. Just tell me to breathe. As crazy as it sounds,
Right.
it was so important, and it was the only way I could make it to the end of a race.
And you are talking about, holding your breath, when when you're scared. I mean, I think that's what sleep apnea is from. It's like sleeping with your wife. You're scared. You're gonna get KO'd in the middle of the night.
I've never slept with your wife, but maybe. I don't know.
I mean, she never listens to these shows, so I clearly can say whatever I want. I'm opened up here on this, but just kidding. Just kidding. But no, I mean, it is interesting though. And I mean, that whole deal. And I mean, because your mind is in a total different place, and how do you forget to breathe? Well, you know what? When you're at that speed and doing those things, I mean, but yeah, I mean, when Tony was telling me about it, I was like, well, I said, how does that work? I mean, he's, it's like Schrader. He's ran a lot of stuff, man, and went way fast, but it was pretty wild. And I mean, talk about getting on your head. I mean, the wreck, unfortunately the day that, lost Dale, Tony was in a horrific wreck, and, he still has that car at his house. And, to look at that thing, I mean, it's bad enough where Pam, Tony's mom, won't even go in and look at it, but then you get in a sprint car at Port Royal, which, listen, those wing sprint cars, the non-wing stuff, the stuff Kenny runs. I mean, listen, at Bristol, I never in my life saw more late models and modifieds flipped ever in my life than were at that place. I mean, what was the Schrader? Did you run that, or did Kenny Wallace or anybody run that you talked to?
We did not go. We were going for the World of Outlaw weekend where they ran the late models and the modifieds, and didn't get to make it. I forget what happened. We had some place we had to be Monday that there was no way out of. They had a bad forecast, which they wound up running Sunday, and I wouldn't have been able to make it. So we didn't. I watched it all on Dirt Vision. I mean, it was plenty exciting. I had run around there enough laps before that I kind of knew what they were going to be up against, But it was good. I don't know. Our cars just aren't built to do that.
And I will say that, I mean, watching the sprint cars go around there, I mean, it was putting a lot of pressure on pieces that I'm just not really sure are made to have those parts have that much pressure.
When you say that your cars aren't built to do that, are you talking about the banking?
The banking and the speed. Now I say that, and I got thinking about it, that I don't know how many, three of the last 5 years, Tony's ran my backup modified at DuQuoin, Illinois. They'll run 165 down the back straightaway, but maybe they're okay.
And that's getting it. I mean, 165, but I mean, you also, at DuQuoin, you also have a pretty wide corner, where you take it a little bit different. I mean, those guys at Bristol, like the Outlaws, I mean, they were popping motors left and right. It was eating motors up like crazy. And so it'll be interesting I think that they'll do it again, and I don't think they shouldn't. I mean, I think they should do it again. I think it was awesome, and if it wasn't the pandemic program, I think you would have saw a lot more people there. They said they had more people camping and things like that than they could have ever imagined. So I think that it's a great thing, but I'm a little biased because I think this place in Rossburg, Ohio, should have gotten that race because they're kind of the ones that stuck their neck out there with the truck deal, and it should have been the right progression to go right over there with the Cup stuff as well. So I mean, I love it for the dirt program, but I think Schrader, do you think you're going to see more of that with those guys doing some dirt shows?
I don't think we're going to see a lot more of it. possibly. I mean, when we talk about, there's only two other places that could do it, and that would be Tony's Eldora or Knoxville. In my mind, that the only ones that could put on a good show. Now they're going to Knoxville this year with the truck, so we'll see what happens there. Um, I thought the show came off good, especially for 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know how much better a night show would have been or something like that, but it was a big change for the sport. But I believe it was dictated by TV, so it's not like anyone had a whole lot of control about how it happened.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, running a dirt race, as you well know, during the day is a challenge by any standard. To come out there, and it took them, a number of days. And like you said, they had also been battling weather off and on, I think, the previous week as well. By the time they got to the Cup race, the track I thought settled in. I mean, it was rough. It had holes. It had character, if you will. But I think that's all part of the fun. If you're going to put them on the dirt, you've got to find a way to deal with that stuff. It's not going to be pristine like asphalt. Otherwise, just run it on asphalt. So I thought what the guys did was pretty cool to watch them progress the way they did. I will ask you this. I mean, because we've seen this at Eldora with the trucks. What are your thoughts about taking that windshield out and putting a screen in?
I'd be all for it. I think it'd be better. When David Stremme ran one of the XRX cars at Gaffney, I guess, Cherokee, and they talked about it. And when I ran it, tested it at Knoxville and Eldora 2 weeks ago, they had the front and rear windshields out. So I don't see there would be any problem there at all.
I mean, it allows them to give them a better track rather than slicking that thing off like they do at Eldora.
Absolutely. But, I mean, whoever made the call, clearly somebody that is not aware of how dirt tracks operate, but whoever made the call to send the trucks out there to quote-unquote wheel pack, yeah, bad idea with windshields.
Yeah.
I mean, horrible idea. And, I mean, it closed the whole front of the trucks off and everything. It's like, that's why you send the old cop cars out there that they finally had out there doing it, which were pretty entertaining to watch. But I always thought here in Indianapolis, Brickyard Weekend, if they had the Cup race out at the big track, at IMS like they do, they had the nationwide race, or I'm sorry, Xfinity Busch race, however you want to roll there, out at Lucas Oil Raceway. And why don't you have the truck race out at the Indiana State Fairgrounds? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They could run the trucks at the fairgrounds, could they not, Kenny?
Yeah, the only problem with the fairgrounds, Springfield and DuQuoin are still dirt tracks, and the Indy Fairgrounds, first off, the wall is way too low. It needs some help that the other ones don't. And that surface has been transitioning more to a type surface for the horses than for the cars for a number of years now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that last year was supposed to be the last time, right?
Yeah.
Or no, 2 years ago.
2 years
ago.
And then they did run it last year, right? Was it because of the pandemic?
Yeah, they ran it last year, and man, there was some wild stuff that happened there. Out of turn 2, I mean, listen, you flip a Silver Crown car, you've accomplished something. I mean, those are big, heavy cars.
Yeah.
And man, there were 2 or 3 that got upside down there. I think that I can't remember who it is. Got transported to the hospital, which is just kind of something you generally don't hear, within the Silver Crown deal. Thank God. But yeah, I always enjoy. DuQuoin, Springfield, all that stuff. But, I mean, I don't know how many people come pack the grandstands to watch horses run around there unless they're going to start racing them there or something. But just, that was my text to the governor when we were there. If you want to come out and watch a real race, we're here. It's not far from your house. So he didn't reply, but anyhow, so
And it wouldn't be bad to invest some money back into that and make it a multifunction track. I mean, I understand what Kenny's saying. It's going all towards the horses, but why not? Why not put a little bit of money back in? I mean, the fairgrounds does a great job. There's a lot of stuff that goes on out there for the bulk of certainly the warm months here, and exhibition stuff in the cold months. But yeah, maybe invest in a wall and proper safety items out there to get those cars out there. I mean, the race is phenomenal, and just like you said, DeCoin, those big dirt track races, even for the ARCA cars, it's fun to watch those guys go out there and do what they do, the flat track motorcycle stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's incredible.
The flat track bikes are wild.
It's unbelievable,
especially
right?
like Springfield, DeCoin, same thing.
Yeah,
but I mean,
same exact thing. And the fan base that you have here, I mean, this is a racing town.
Right.
I mean, I just can't imagine it wouldn't work out for them. Time for a quick break. Don't go away. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota.
So Schrader, did you ever run an outlaw car out there at the Indiana State Fairgrounds?
Ran it. I don't think I ran an outlaw car there. We ran the winged outlaw with World Outlaw Show and USAC Silver Crown cars. Same day they had some kind of shootout. I want to say it was in '82. So I had run a wing sprint car at Sedalia on the mile and at Springfield on the mile.
Hammer down, right?
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty big commitment when you got down the end of the turn. Like, I think I need to let up, but I think I want to let up, but I probably don't need to, but I really want to. But, then that little brain part.
I was just going to say, are we back to that big ball, little brain thing? Yeah. Wound up didn't let off.
Yeah, of course. Let's keep her down, babe. Keep her doing it.
A lot of times it helps you when you're coming off the turn if you check up just a little bit.
Yeah, I've seen them clear that fence there at the fairgrounds more than once, and I was there. I was there for an outlaw show. It had to be early '90s. Again, working security, doing something, and I'm telling you, man, I was absolutely mesmerized. I mean, they were flying around that place, and but what I guess where I was going with it was, back in the day, they had a lot of shows there. You know what I mean? And they had a lot of fans there. So it's like nothing's changed. I mean,
right.
If racing, as a whole, I think it's gotten better. It has gotten safer, and so I don't know. It's wild. I mean, I'd like to see their.
One thing's changed on us, though, Rico, is they had a lot of shows and they had a lot of fans, but we're having less and less fans at a lot of these races. Not saying that less are watching, because now with all the streaming that's available for all the different series online, a lot are watching at home, but not necessarily. Some of that revenue isn't going in the promoter's pocket. So we're not necessarily seeing the fan support we need to be rolling the dice and making a couple $100,000 investment to bring a big race into some of these facilities.
Are we going down a slippery slope here with the direction things are going with all the live stream?
As far as if you're streaming from the racetrack, probably some of the revenue sharing needs to be looked at, for the racetrack also. In some of the situations, I know it's different for all of them.
But that's where I was getting ready to go exactly when he said that. Now he's wearing track owner hat, okay, track promoter hat, and he's exactly right, because here's the thing. You haven't changed the purse. You haven't paid more. You have this streaming thing now. You're still charging Peevely the same amount sanctioning fee, but you're also, robbing them at the same time because, hey, listen, maybe I don't want to trek it all the way over to Peevely and watch it because I know I can turn on Dirt Vision and catch the Outlaws race.
Yeah, and that
Or I know
facility
I can-
doesn't cost a penny less to run this year than it ever did before. You know, I mean,
Right.
it's all going up.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, with the cost of fuel, cost of everything, you got, everything that's going on out there. And I agree 1,000,000% with him, because here's the thing. Without track promoters / owners like Schrader, and Tony and everybody, these guys that have tracks and tracks together, well, there's no place for you to film it. There's no place for you to live stream it now. So where are you going to do that? If as I always say in business, if it's not good for both of us, let's not do it, because it's just not going to be good, period. It's never going to turn out better because we did it and we knew we shouldn't have done it. So I wholeheartedly agree, because at the end of the day, you end up, hurting the tracks. And listen, some places can take it, but I mean, you look at Bob Sargent. Bob Sargent has, I mean, you want to talk about a guy that rolls the dice. I mean, he puts it out there, and he promotes a lot of races. So if you're, taking money out the back door, it's hard for him to continue. How much longer do you want to continue that business model? So
I'm by no means signaling picking on Dirt Vision by any means, because the whole Dirt organization, that's who we're sanctioned by at I-55 Federated Auto Parts Raceway, and the World Outlaw Sprint cars come there. I think they're there 4 times this year, and they have done a phenomenal job of help growing our sport. We're just going to need to look at hopefully some kind of universal package put together, like NASCAR does, that maybe would look at a little bit different distribution of some of those funds.
yeah, and I mean that's exactly what I'm getting at, because listen, Dirt Vision, I mean, I'm not going to fly to California to watch them run out there. So it's great. You can pick it up. And the people from California aren't going to fly out here. But it's I agree with Schrader, exactly what he's saying, because at the end of the day, if there was some rev share thing on there,
well, it's benefiting the streaming company. I mean, it's a product for them. And it's just like going to a grocery store. They're going to sell the product. They didn't get the product for free.
Right.
You should have to pay for that product to some degree. Now, whatever that percentage is, like you said before, it's got to work for everybody. So, if the streaming company is charging the fans that are watching whatever the price may be, then a percentage of that needs to get kicked back to the guy that's actually producing the show.
Well, I mean, yes and no, but here's the thing, too. If you have a place that holds 10,000 people, well, you're going to be a different percentage than the guy that has 3,000 people. 3,000 people in the stands. But I think that's what Kenny said. I mean, you divvy it up however it makes sense, obviously. But I mean, the point being is, if they're going to live stream it and it does rob them of some of their audience, then yeah, you've got to find a way to everybody has to keep winning. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it? Right.
I mean, they're all there at the end of the day to try
and
make a living.
We're not trying to finish 8th. Okay, just to go back to that.
Or 7th.
Seventh.
Top 5, damn it. We've invested a lot of stickers in that car. So
okay, a lot of stickers. Okay.
It's more than that, but anyhow.
Hey, buddy, we've had you on here for a while, man. We appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate a little bit better later on here today, and you can get inside of that race car a little bit.
I'm just getting ready to run out there and spring into action right now.
There you go. Schrader, thanks as always. What's that?
Or maybe start my exercise program.
Yeah,
one or the other. I don't know yet.
So his exercise program will be like Tony's. He's going to walk to the concession stand,
buy some Oreo cookies,
get a couple of hot dogs. If they sold SpaghettiOs, he would get those, of course. So. Yeah. Anyhow, Schrader, thanks as always, and hope to see you soon. And we've got your glasses waiting on you here. We just need you here so we can fit you.
Okay, sir. Thank you much for having us on.
Thanks for being with us here on The Skinny. This episode has been brought to you by Toyota, Rhino Classifieds, Dream Giveaway, and General Tire. For the latest in sunglasses, optical frames, accessories, and apparel, be sure to check out fatheads.com. That's Fatheads with a Z. Production facilities provided by Fatheads Eyewear Studios. All rights reserved.